as a second, and he'll have to start from there alongside Luke Bennett on the front row of the grid. The last of our finals in the online spring season, and the final journeys to Munich. Was that a potential jump start though from Josh Rogers from 5th position on the grid, as we'll take our look down towards the first corner. Bennett's got the inside line, the outside line being taken by Marcel Czincik. He might well be out a little bit too wide there, as one of the Mercedes-AMG Team Petronas Esports cars is going to try and fight its way through, maybe into second. Confirmation of the penalty that's going to go the way of Joshua Rogers, courtesy of a false start, but Marcel Czincik has the whole shot as they head onto the Parabolica. A bit of a pinch there from Bennett, and that is going to slow things down and potentially make things 3 wide. Joni Toomala being positioned out, but look at this from Sebastian Job. He's going to try and make his way past potentially Josh Rogers as they get down to the hairpin. Will he get some assistance from his teammate as those two Mercs go in flying formation? The Silver Arrows heading down into the hairpin, all tidy through here through the mid-pack. Out wide goes Josh Rogers, and a few positions being picked up as they're 3 wide off the hairpin.
They certainly are. Further back, you can see the RAG getting himself right into the mix here. Of course, Czincik further up the road. This is Yuyovski, who's right in the midst of this fight now between that of the Porsche Coanda, that of course being Joshua Rogers. Don't forget as well, he's got to serve a penalty as well at this point. Toomala right in the mix. There's Yuyovski further back. Rogers right between him too as they come through this next right. The fast right-hander. Job still currently sits in 6th, but Yuyovski with a very different fight to this hand. Rogers now settling in behind him, but he will have to take a penalty and drive through at this point after that false start.
Yeah, that is the 3rd jump start, I believe, for Porsche Coanda this season. They obviously had a couple in the same race a little while ago. Joshua Rogers into the pit lane, so still issues for them, and they return. That is a big shocker for the Porsche Coanda esports team, and 12th might be good enough. Obviously, for a driver that's already progressing through to Munich in the long run, it doesn't matter too much. Marcel Czincik pulling out by 0.6 of a second. I will remind you, those that have started for pole position and led that first lap today have a 100% win record. That is the same in the quarterfinals as well. Those that have been doing the most of the leading have gone on to win. Marcel Czincik, he's going to be asking, well, he's probably just focused on what he's driving right now, but our questions to him will be, are there any mistakes on the table, and does Luke Bennett have anything in the tank to potentially do something about Czincik? Does Sebastian Job have anything to do about the top 4? He's got Joni Toomala ahead of him, which surely will not be a particularly difficult pass to make to get himself up into 5th position, but a reminder to all of you at home, if he wants to go to Munich, he has to get 4th place.
Yeah, he does, and Marko Pejic occupies that, and that's going to be less than easy, because obviously you can imagine Pejic, who's already taken a pole and a race win here tonight, will be certainly no slouch when it comes to holding on onto a position, and they're currently sitting in tandem. James Baldwin very close and personal behind Luke Bennett right now as well, currently sat within 0.4 of a second of that of the Team Redline car in 2nd place. Marcel Czincik holding on to the lead here by 0.7 of a second as well, looking very confident up at the front end as well, but they've got to task Erhan Yuyovski to gain a few extra places in order to put them right in the mix here. There's lots that could be answered here heading in through this final race here in tonight's round 8 scenario. We've got Czincik leading, Bennett still within 0.7 of a second with Baldwin getting closer too, but look at that further down. Sebastian Job 8.5 out the way of Joni Toomala. He's not getting any closer. That could be key here, Lewis.
Yeah, and of course, for anyone saying Joni Toomala needs to get out of the way now for Sebastian Job to go. No, absolutely not. If Joni Toomala gets out of the way now, then Sebastian Job has 1.3 seconds basically up to Marko Pejic. That means no slipstream. Right now, Joni Toomala needs to keep doing what he's doing. If Sebastian Job gets close, then I'm sure he'll jump out of the way. But until that point, you've just got to keep doing what you are doing right now. I mean, things will calm down. Things have calmed down after the first lap where everything was going a little bit crazy down to the hairpin. That was expected. At the moment, teams championship-wise, again, all very provisional, all this, that and the other, and also we're only 2 laps into, on the 3rd lap of a 10-lap race. At the moment, Team Redline will be winning the team's championship. They need drama for Bennett. They need Bennett basically to be right down towards the back of this field, and potentially even a little bit more work from Yuyovski. Right now, it's not changing up at all.
No, it's not. Yeah, Yuyovski currently down in 7th place, needs to try and lift himself higher and higher in this timing tower. Of course, further up as well, the closest man to Luke Bennett is James Baldwin, and Mercedes currently sat in a very pretty scenario of P3 and P4. Pejic occupying that 4th place. Can Team Redline secure the team's title in the very first time of asking? Here's the replay from the start here, Lewis.
Yeah, very clear jump start there from from Rogers. Seen that one, like we said, we saw it back in the Nürburgring, if memory serves, the last time we visited there in round 6 of the championship. We see it here in round number 8. Big clobbering of the curb there from Baldwin, who's closing in now on Bennett. Is he going to be close enough to potentially try something? Not into turn 2, but potentially down into the hairpin, deep onto the brakes. Remember, the Mercedes does typically struggle a little bit in this kind of section here, going into the second sector. A look at team bosses from both Team Redline and R8G. Mehdi Al Fatti on the top of the right-hand side for R8G. Mark Prinzing on the bottom right for Team Redline. Let's communication between Team Redline, obviously from manager to driver. Let's see how hard Bennett's going to fight Baldwin. The answer to that question is not hard at all, and you could tell by the reaction that Mark Prinzing had there. He was basically telling Bennett, who was very clearly asking, what's happening here, do I fight him? He said, no, don't fight him, let Baldwin go. Wise move.
Yeah, definite. Yeah, I think so. I think obviously just alleviating the pressure. Doesn't want Luke Bennett to really be brought too heavily into a big fight at this point, especially when you are the sole Team Redline car. Of course, Mehdi Al Fatti there in the top section of the manager's cam that you can see in the bottom right-hand corner is obviously going to be conscious of the fact that Page is behind. He's probably going to want a little bit more pressure to be brought upon Luke Bennett here. Will ideally need Erhan Yuyovski to get a little closer to that of Sebastian Jobe further up as well. But Sebastian Jobe has got his own issues. Now, look at that gap between him and Tourmalet. Still hasn't shown any signs of closing. And obviously, given the way the cards are stacked right now, Sebastian Jobe is not going through to the final major. That gives a chance here yet to the Big Mac. The Big Mac Backham might still have an opportunity to get to the major at this point, and it's looking like it's in his favour now.
Yeah, certainly so. Again, we'll say it again. We've said it a few times. We'll say it again. Sebastian Jobe, if he wants to progress through into the major, he needs to get 4th position. 6th, not good enough for Jobe. So there is a lot to deal with in all of this. Mac Backham might just about be right. By the way, the number we got for the cut-off, just want to touch on that for a second. The number we got for the cut-off, for the expected cut-off, which did come from Luke Crane, by the way, was 95. If this is the way it goes, then the cut-off will be 93.
Wow.
Not bad, not bad for a rough guess and a bit of calculation. So shout out to that one. We'll see what Sebastian Jobe can do if he can work his way up the order that extra little bit and see if he can do so. He's got to defend from Erhan Yuyovski. He'll be hungry when it comes to the team's championship. At the moment, I'm just going to touch on the team's championship. If everything finishes as it is, Team Redline will have 756 points. R8G will have 712. Which is obviously not as close as R8G would want it to be. They want it a little bit closer, and they want to slightly swing the other way if they could possibly have it their way, almost halfway through this final race.
Yeah, there's more still to come. Obviously, another 5 laps and leaves plenty of opportunities for mass overtakes. Obviously, Sebastian Jobe will need to put his foot to the floor if he wants to try and challenge for the top-end results. You see him there in the bottom left-hand corner. The pressure certainly mounting at a very sensitive part of this championship squabble. Of course, Jobe in the very first ESL R1 event has been racing now with the G2 team now for quite some time, obviously since round 6, and has given certainly so many brilliant moments here to the team as well. And ever since fighting it out, 23 points obviously securing in round 6, then following that up with a 26-point visit, hasn't necessarily, as you alluded to prior as well, secured, should we say, the major points. Obviously, when we consider 60 points for a win, he probably would prefer that. That would have answered certainly a lot of the frailties in his books, and certainly in his mind's eye, he'll want a big result out of this one, not just for his own personal gratification, but to at least get himself into the major conversation. He's currently outside that crucial top 4. Currently, it's Mac Backham who's going to be taking that place as well. So I think he's going to certainly feel the Big Mac right now. You're breathing a huge sigh of relief should it stay like this.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm just going to update my points 1 second, by the way. It was 729 for R8G, so they're not a million miles off, 27 points shy of Team Redline in all of that. Like you say, it's one of the beautiful things with this kind of format is that people are feeling pressure that aren't even in this race. Why I love that qualifying, seeing the driver that's currently on pole position, because remember back to Marco Page, how much pressure he was feeling, and he could do nothing more. It's kind of what we're seeing from our team managers here in the bottom right. The team manager again, R8G on the top, Redline on the bottom. Those that are running their respective teams for ESL R1. They've got this pressure on their shoulders, but there's almost nothing they can do. They can give advice to the drivers, they can calm them down, they can manage the kind of situation as to where they're at right now, but they can't make the move. They can't set the blistering lap time that's going to get them into position to win. they can't actually affect, and it's in that scenario where you almost start feeling sick, because you're feeling this pressure, but you have no escape for it. You have nowhere to put it. You just have to suck it up and just hope.
Yeah, you do. You're absolutely spot on here, Lewis. And it is literally just a case of watching on, letting your drivers do the work. There's obviously, it's like a lottery at this point. Anything can happen. Despite there being 12 drivers on the track, doesn't make it any less difficult. You've got drivers here in the top 12 here in this fight that are all sensational behind the wheel, certainly when it comes to sim racing, and the same can be said for ESL R1. Despite seeing some consistent results in places, we've got new faces getting into the mix. The likes of Keke Oliveira, who has genuinely improved as time has gone on, despite him being 11th here. Getting through to the final is such a huge thing for Furia, and the fact that they've managed to adapt themselves here to sim racing, certainly here at ESL, has been a real feel-good story. And I'm sure if you're Keke Oliveira, you must take a lot of pride in what you've achieved already in this championship, as well as Joni Tourmler, likes of Sebastian Job as well, G2 Esports, who obviously are a very well-renowned outfit when it comes to esports. They are now here in ESL R1 as well, and really launching a great account of themselves, obviously, despite Sebastian Job being outside of that 4th place right now. And obviously Joni Tourmler, who has been part of the fraternity for quite some time, has also been a tenacious contender. Further up as well, you've got Mercedes that are looking to bring their expertise in racing as well, with the likes of Marco Pejic and James Baldwin. But for Marcel Chinchik at this moment in time, no doubt he can certainly take a lot of pleasure and a lot of solace out of this performance so far. After that absolutely enthralling lap to land pole position the way he did, to go against someone like Luke Bennett, who has delivered big results, is just massive, and also James Baldwin as well. He hasn't yet got a final win. RHE yet to get a final win. He could be on the cusp of greatness, but he has got James Baldwin looming up on him now.
Yeah, and Baldwin is closing in. Obviously, for second position in this race, I think it's pretty much set that it's going to be one of these two drivers that's going to finish in second, just based on the fact that Bennett's dropping off the rear end. And I do have fears and concerns towards the BMW's, potentially it's tired, but it's just the longevity in the race. Whatever's going wrong, at least with Team Redline specifically, they've got weaker and weaker as the race has gone on. We've seen that before in the semi-finals. Kind of seeing it here a little bit with Bennett as well, dropping back into the clutches of Marco Pejic. Obviously, Joni Tourmler and Sebastian Job, they are both in BMWs themselves, and they are closing in. Did want to touch on Joni Tourmler, who has been, again, fantastic, especially since we've got to the online stuff. Struggled a little bit back in Poland and Katowice with just 2 semi-finals, but from that point has had a few final appearances. I think this is his 4th, including a 2nd place back a few rounds ago, finishing 2nd to Dara McCormack. As they head into the Sachs curve right now, can he find his way past Marco Pejic? Baldwin's closing right in to the rear end of Marcel Chinchik and desperately wants his first win at ESL R1. It would be the 2nd for Mercedes, though, of course, courtesy of Marco Pejic's first win a few rounds back. Joni Tourmler staring at the back of him. And again, the top 10 are all involved in quite a tight train. Josh Rogers not a part of that, courtesy of his drive-through penalty for jumping the race start. It's a little wide from Joni Tourmler, got to be said. And of course, Keke Oliveira having a couple of issues early on in the race, not being a part of this train. Do you think James Baldwin can win this race, or do you think it really comes down to a Chinchik mistake? That's what it needs.
Well, I mean, Baldwin is getting closer, isn't he? And I must say, despite Baldwin not necessarily benefiting for the Mercedes team necessarily in terms of them getting the team's championship, he's still yet to get himself a final win, so he might use that as leverage in his cause, as now Joni Tourmler comes under well, he's trying to put the pressure on Marco Pejic here as well. I'd imagine with a little bit of Sebastian Job in mind. He is getting close to Sebastian Job, but I get a feeling it's a little too late as Yuri Kadsdorp now goes side by side with Mitchell de Jong as they whip through the very fast right hand, and now the mouse car looking to get itself in front in the Audi R8, but still the Porsche coming back at him here now as Mitchell de Jong creeps down the inside. Joni Tourmler also trying still to put pressure on here on Marco Pejic, of course, in an effort to bring Joe perhaps into this mix too, as they look to go wheel to wheel heading through the stadium section, but still Pejic saying no, as this battle between Kadsdorp and Mitchell de Jong still pursues at this point.
Fantastic attempt there for the pair of them. They're putting on a decent show here in the battle for 9th position. You're absolutely right, by the way, about Tourmler and Pejic. Tourmler's trying to fight Pejic so hard to bring Sebastian Job more into the fight. Again, Sebastian Job needs 4th position out wide, goes Mitchell de Jong to the inside, goes Yuri Kadsdorp as we head through the final corner and on to the final lap here of the online spring season. The final lap before we go racing in Munich in a few weeks' time. Who's going to come out on top at the moment? It's between Chinchik and Baldwin, but all the fights are happening way below that flat between Bennett, Pajic, Tourmaline, Job, also back here with De Jong and Karsdorp. Karsdorp's going to surely look to the inside when they get to the hairpin as they head their way back out onto the Parabolica. Can Baldwin do it? I don't think it's close enough.
No, I don't think so. I think Cinčić could be on the cusp of getting his very first final win, and also RAG's very first final win as well. Obviously, though, it will be trouble because this will essentially still allow Redline to take the team's title should it stay like this. They need a lot more than this to, or should I say, a lot more than this RAG, at least to get it a little bit closer to bridge that points gap. But certainly at this point, it looks like it's fate, it's sealed. Though Cinčić, I think, can take a lot of promise out of his performance here tonight.
Yeah, I think there'll be expected disappointment for RAG here if the final few corners are ticked off in the same way and they're not able to take the team's championship. But they're finishing second. They look so strong. They have been the team to beat when it comes to consistency. And are they going to become the team to beat heading into the Rennsport Summit in Munich in a few weeks' time by taking victory in the final race? I'm really glad, by the way, because if this happens, then the commentator's curse doesn't exist. Jasmine, I was right. Potentially, we'll see. For your final corner to come through, Marcel Cinčić is going to lead their way across the line, and the Hungarian is going to take victory for RAG. He had to fight for that one, had to defend from James Baldwin as tight races across the line. Bennett drops back to third. The championship will go the way of Team Redline in the team side of things, but on the drivers, the top man to beat was Marcel Cinčić. Absolutely phenomenal, mostly courtesy of that qualifying lap that put him on pole position by 0.005 of a second. Nailed every single lap after